There's a moment, right before something shifts, when reality almost feels like it's listening. You say a thought out loud, and the next day a stranger echoes it back to you. You imagine a possibility, and somehow the world rearranges itself to match. Most people call it coincidence, but what if it's fluency? What if the universe has always been speaking to you, just in a language you were never taught to hear? We grow up fluent in struggle, fluent in effort, fluent in trying to get things to happen. But when it comes to the deeper communication that life itself seems to be offering, most of us are tone deaf. We speak in doubt, yet expect clarity. We vibrate in fear, yet ask for peace. We whisper, "I'm ready," while our bodies still hum with resistance. I used to think manifestation was about saying the right affirmations or thinking positive thoughts long enough to convince the universe to listen. But over time, I realized, it's not about the words we say. It's about the frequency we speak them from. Like two radios tuned to different stations. You can't hear the song if you're not on its wavelength. This script isn't about wishful thinking or pretending. It's about decoding the actual mechanics behind that mysterious alignment everyone talks about. The energetic syntax through which the universe understands you. Once you learn its grammar, the language beneath language, reality starts responding like a conversation, not a command. And here's the twist. The universe never stopped talking. You did. You stopped noticing the subtle feedback loop between your state and your surroundings. You stopped realizing that every emotion, every thought, every posture was a word in that cosmic dialogue. But if you learn to listen again, the universe starts to answer back. Because it always does, just not in English. To understand how this language works, we need to zoom out of words and into vibration. Every thought, emotion, and belief creates a signal, not metaphorically but measurably. The heart and brain generate electromagnetic fields that ripple through your entire body and subtly affect your environment. Think of it as broadcasting your inner state onto a universal frequency band. Here's the key. The universe doesn't respond to your vocabulary. It responds to your coherence. When your mind says, "I want abundance," but your nervous system still remembers scarcity, the signal you're sending is scrambled. You're like a radio station trying to play two songs at once. What comes out? Static. Mixed messages. And that's exactly what life mirrors back. Inconsistent results, fleeting moments of luck followed by confusion or collapse. Now imagine a different scene. Your mind, heart, and body humming the same note. Emotional coherence. You're no longer wishing for something to arrive. You're embodying the version of yourself that already lives in that frequency. Suddenly, the field recognizes you. The song plays clearly. Opportunities, coincidences, and insights align because your signal finally makes sense. This is the observer effect in action. Your inner state influencing outer outcomes, not through force, but through frequency. You become the organizing principle of your experience. Not because you control reality, but because you're finally speaking its native tongue. And that tongue isn't verbal, it's vibrational. Every moment you're transmitting, through your thoughts, tone, breath, and even the subtle tension in your shoulders. The question isn't whether you're manifesting. The question is, what are you saying without realizing it? When you start observing yourself the way the universe does, as energy in motion, you stop trying to send messages and start becoming the message. But there's one belief that blocks almost everyone from mastering this dialogue, and it's so deeply ingrained, most people never even notice they're repeating it. And it's that belief we're about to shatter next. Here's the myth that keeps most people stuck. That manifestation is a mental game. That if you can just think hard enough, visualize vividly enough, repeat affirmations long enough, reality will eventually catch up. But here's the truth. The universe doesn't respond to mental noise. It responds to embodied signals. Let's make that real. Imagine this. You're waiting for a text from someone who suddenly went quiet. Your mind keeps looping. They'll text back. They will. I trust the process. You even try to meditate, say your affirmations, pretend to feel calm. But under the surface, your body is screaming uncertainty. Your stomach is tight. Your breath shallow. Your fingers checking the phone again and again. You're not radiating trust. You're broadcasting lack. And that's the frequency the universe hears. The language you think you're speaking, calm, trusting words, gets overpowered by the louder broadcast of your body. That's why you can't fake alignment. Your nervous system always tells the truth. Here's where the shift begins. Instead of trying to convince the universe, you start regulating your own inner tone. You breathe slower. You unclench your jaw. You soften your chest. You notice the part of you that's terrified of silence and instead of fighting it, you let it exist without judgment. In that surrender, something miraculous happens. The signal clears. You're no longer begging reality to change. You've changed your frequency to match peace itself. Suddenly, messages start arriving. Maybe from that person, maybe from somewhere else entirely. Because you stopped speaking in fear, and the universe stopped having to mirror it back to you. This is the real language of the universe, resonance. Not pretending to be calm, but feeling safe enough to become calm. Not forcing positivity, but creating coherence between what you think, what you feel, and how you breathe. Most people try to shout their desires louder. I want this, I'm ready, I deserve it. But reality doesn't respond to volume, it responds to harmony. The moment your energy stops contradicting itself, the field begins to rearrange. And that's where the nervous system becomes the bridge, the translator between thought and reality, between your words and the world's reply. But before you can speak fluently in that language, you have to understand this translator, and how safety turns static into music. Think of your nervous system as the instrument through which the universe hears you. When it's out of tune, flooded with tension, overthinking, or survival energy, every signal you send comes out distorted. You might be affirming abundance, but your body is whispering danger. You might say you trust life, but your chest feels like it's bracing for impact. The universe doesn't read your intentions, it reads your coherence. When your nervous system feels unsafe, it can't broadcast clarity, only noise. That's why so many people feel like their manifestations almost work, but collapse under stress. The field can only match the signal you can sustain, not the one you can briefly imagine. Here's the beautiful paradox. Regulation isn't about relaxation, it's about resonance. You're not calming yourself to be quiet, you're aligning yourself to be clear. You're tuning your body like a string until the tone of safety vibrates through your whole system. Let's make this practical. Try this with me for 30 seconds. Close your eyes, drop your shoulders, and exhale slowly through your mouth. Feel the weight of gravity pulling you gently into the chair or floor. Let that weight remind you, you're supported right now. Now, bring one hand to your chest, one to your belly. Inhale through your nose for a count of 4, letting your lower hand rise first. Hold for 2. Exhale softly for 6. As you do, imagine you're releasing static. All the mental chatter, the gripping, the trying. Do this 3 times. Now, listen, not to your thoughts, but to the subtle hum underneath them. That's coherence beginning to form. Your body is remembering what safety feels like. This isn't woo, it's physics. When your heart rate steadies, your brain waves synchronize, creating a measurable electromagnetic field of order. That order is readable by the environment, by people, by circumstances, by the field itself. It's how you start speaking clearly to reality. Coherence is the translation key. It tells the universe, I'm ready. Not in fantasy, but in frequency. And once that message lands, reality responds with synchronicity, not coincidence. Because when your system stops fighting life, life stops fighting back. But here's where most people stumble. They confuse temporary calm for transformation. They try to feel good instead of become the version of themselves who naturally radiates that harmony. And that's the real pivot, from managing your state to embodying a new identity entirely. Most people chase temporary states, moments of calm, flashes of confidence, a few hours of high vibration, and then wonder why nothing sticks. But manifestation doesn't stabilize at the level of mood. It stabilizes at the level of identity. Because the universe isn't listening to what you momentarily feel, it's listening to who you believe yourself to be. Here's what that means. Imagine you spend the morning feeling centered after meditating. You're grounded, peaceful, open. Then a bill notification pops up, and instantly the old panic returns. Why? Because the body returned to its default identity. I'm someone who never quite has enough. That identity overrides every state you try to create on top of it. States are waves. Identity is the ocean. Until you shift the ocean, the waves just keep repeating their pattern. So how do you actually change the deeper identity, the energetic signature that reality keeps matching? You begin by noticing the posture of the old one. How does your body hold not enough? Shoulders forward, breath shallow, chest collapsed. Then you unlearn that shape. You breathe differently, stand differently, respond differently, until your body begins to memorize a new baseline. Identity isn't an idea, it's a vibration you rehearse until it becomes automatic. Every choice, every breath, every moment of awareness is a syllable in the sentence that says, "This is who I am now." You don't need to fake confidence or abundance. You need to inhabit them. Like stepping into a new frequency station and staying long enough for your nervous system to realize, "Oh, we live here now." That's when your external reality begins to reorganize, not as a reward, but as a reflection. Life starts mirroring back the version of you that has taken root. And this is where true coherence evolves into power, when being that version is no longer an act of effort, but of memory. Because once identity changes, behavior follows naturally. You stop trying to maintain a vibe. You are the vibe. And reality simply speaks back in the same tone. But here's the quantum twist. Identity doesn't just shape emotion, it selects timelines. The who you identify as is literally the dial that tunes which version of the world you step into next. And that shift, from identity to timeline navigation, is where the language of the universe becomes multidimensional. Every moment, infinite versions of you already exist, not metaphorically, but energetically. Each version radiates a slightly different frequency, like channels on a radio. One version of you lives in scarcity, always just getting by. Another moves through life with quiet trust, always supported. Another radiates creativity and abundance effortlessly. The only question is, which frequency are you tuned to? You don't become those versions. You tune to them. Identity is the dial. Whatever you believe yourself to be determines which timeline your consciousness syncs with. You've already felt it before. Those moments when everything clicks, when coincidences multiply, when life feels choreographed. That's timeline resonance. You've slipped into a reality that matches your energetic signature perfectly. Let's ground this with a scene. You walk into a job interview. One version of you, the nervous one, carries the old vibration of, "I hope they like me." That energy speaks before you do. The handshake is slightly hesitant. Your tone tries too hard to impress. You're on the frequency of seeking validation. Now imagine tuning to a different identity before you even enter the room. You take a breath, recall who you are. Capable, centered, already aligned with the right opportunities. Your energy says, "Let's see if this role matches me." You're not performing, you're radiating. That version exists on another timeline entirely, and you just joined it. This is the deeper layer of the universe's language. It doesn't react to effort. It rearranges around identity. Every belief, every posture, every breath is a tuning movement between possible worlds. When you shift your sense of self, you don't just change how you feel. You change what's available. It's not magic. It's resonance physics. The field organizes itself around coherent identity patterns. Your outer world is just a feedback screen showing which version of you is currently broadcasting. That's why real transformation doesn't require chasing outcomes. It requires stabilizing frequency. You keep tuning, not obsessively, but consistently, until one day you realize you're no longer trying to hold the vibration. It's holding you. And once that happens, reality starts echoing your new tone in every area of life. But to sustain it, you need tools, tangible ways to rehearse coherence and anchor identity into your body so deeply it becomes your new normal. Because without practice, you drift back to static. So let's build your toolkit for fluency, the daily protocol for speaking the universe's language through every cell of your being. If identity is the frequency dial, practice is how you hold the signal. You can't just understand alignment. You have to train your body to broadcast it until it feels native. So let's build a simple toolkit, not mental tricks, but physical and energetic drills that teach your system what coherence sounds like from the inside. 1. Bridge statements. When your mind argues, "This isn't working," don't fight it with fake positivity. Instead, bridge the gap. Replace extremes like "I'm abundant" when you clearly feel panic with something believable. "I'm learning to feel safe with more." That subtle shift creates resonance between truth and possibility. The universe can't translate denial, but it fluently understands honesty in motion. 2. Somatic anchors. Pick a physical gesture that represents your aligned self, maybe pressing a hand to your heart, rolling your shoulders back, or lengthening your breath. Do it whenever you feel disconnected. Over time, your body links that gesture with the state of coherence. It becomes your personal reset button, a way of saying to the universe, "We're back on frequency." 3. Emotional rehearsal. Spend 2 minutes a day not visualizing an event, but feeling the version of you who already lives in it. Instead of imagining the car, feel the ease of arrival. Instead of picturing a relationship, feel the exhale of being seen. Emotion is the syntax through which the universe decodes your message. Rehearsal isn't fantasy, it's transmission. 4. Embodiment drill. Ask yourself each morning, if the version of me who already has it woke up in this body today, how would they move? Then move that way. Walk, breathe, and speak with the rhythm of the timeline you've tuned to. The body doesn't know the difference between rehearsal and reality. That's why actors cry real tears. Do these consistently, and something subtle happens. Your signal stabilizes. The static fades. The old identity stops hijacking your frequency because the new one has memorized itself through repetition. And this is where you start living in dialogue with the field. You'll notice signs, moments of strange timing, phrases repeated by strangers, doors opening in rhythm with your thoughts. That's not magic. That's feedback. The universe is confirming fluency. Have you ever felt that when you finally stopped gripping and what you wanted just showed up naturally? Tell me your story in the comments. It might unlock someone else's leap. But before fluency becomes mastery, there's one more step. Learning how to transmute the noise. The moments when urgency, doubt, and over-control threaten to break your signal. Even after you've learned to tune your signal, life will test the stability of your broadcast. Not to punish you, but to show you where static still hides. 3 forces usually interfere: urgency, split signals, and over-control. Each one pulls you out of resonance in a different way. Urgency is the loudest distortion. It's that subtle panic that whispers, if this doesn't happen soon, I'll lose everything. When urgency drives you, your vibration collapses into scarcity. You start transmitting fear of delay, and reality mirrors that frequency perfectly. More waiting, more friction, more proof of not yet. The antidote isn't pretending to be patient. It's remembering. Time expands when you're coherent. The more grounded you feel, the faster things flow. Breathe like you already have what you asked for. Let your body teach time who's in charge. Split signals are trickier. They happen when your mind desires one thing, but your emotional body clings to another. You might say, I want a new job, while secretly dreading change. You might affirm, I'm open to love, while still vibrating with fear of being hurt. The field doesn't punish confusion. It simply reflects it. So instead of forcing clarity, get curious. Ask, which part of me isn't on board? When you bring that part into awareness, without shame, integration begins. You're not erasing conflict, you're harmonizing it. Over-control is the silent killer of coherence. It's when you micromanage outcomes, trying to manipulate the when, where, and how. That tension creates a closed circuit. Nothing new can flow because your energy is gripping the old. Remember, control speaks the language of fear. Surrender speaks the language of trust. Letting go isn't passive. It's making space for alignment to move. Here's a simple transmutation practice. When urgency arises, slow your breath. When confusion arises, place a hand over your heart and whisper, all parts of me are safe to align. When control arises, open your palms and physically release your grip. These micro movements rewire the signal faster than any affirmation ever could. Because in the end, manifestation isn't about adding more power. It's about clearing interference. When your channel is clean, reality can finally echo back your pure tone, effortlessly. And that's when the ordinary becomes mystical. Every conversation, every meal, every step turns into an ongoing dialogue with the universe itself. So how do you keep that coherence alive? Not just in meditation or visualization, but while living your real life, surrounded by noise and motion? The real fluency test isn't in the quiet moments, it's in motion. The universe listens most closely when you're not trying. It hears your frequency in how you walk to your car, how you eat, how you speak to the cashier, how you breathe while waiting in line. Every ordinary act is a transmission. To live in coherence is to speak the language of the universe through living itself. When you wake up, don't rush straight into thoughts. Before checking your phone, feel your body. Notice how your breath moves. That's your morning frequency check-in. You're telling the field, here's the note I'm starting on today. When you eat, practice presence. Taste the food fully, breathe between bites. Notice gratitude rising naturally, not as a forced ritual, but as a felt signal of I'm supported. Every bite you savor reinforces the vibration of enoughness. Walking can become a tuning practice too. As your feet meet the ground, imagine the earth matching your rhythm. Step by step, heartbeat to heartbeat. Each stride sends a signal. I belong here. That coherence isn't symbolic. It's measurable. Your heart's electromagnetic field expands up to several feet when you're in genuine appreciation. That field communicates. Even conversation is part of the dialogue. When someone complains or gossips, you don't have to correct them. Just maintain your frequency. Listen without absorbing. Your calm field stabilizes theirs, like a tuning fork bringing a chaotic one into harmony. That's how coherence spreads, silently, through resonance. And when stress hits, traffic, deadlines, chaos, instead of slipping into reaction, pause and ask, what language am I speaking right now? Fear or flow? Then breathe once, feel your feet, and realign. The universe reads that micro shift instantly. That's how you stay bilingual between human and energy. Integration isn't about perfection, it's about rhythm. You'll drift, then return. Lose coherence, then find it again. Each return strengthens fluency. Each conscious breath teaches reality your new accent. Soon, synchronicities become constant, not because you're lucky, but because you're legible. Reality understands you now. You've stopped shouting for attention and started conversing through vibration. But coherence in daily life is only the beginning. Once your frequency stabilizes across ordinary moments, the field begins to widen, rippling into relationships, creativity, health, and purpose. And that's where the language of the universe stops being personal and starts becoming planetary. Once you start speaking the universe's language fluently, your energy doesn't just change your personal outcomes, it begins to reorganize everything around you. The same coherence that draws opportunities now shapes your relationships, your health, your creativity, even the sense of purpose that flows through your days. Because energy doesn't stay contained, it radiates. And when your frequency stabilizes in one area, it naturally harmonizes the others. Picture this. You've been embodying abundance, feeling safe in the unknown. One morning you notice that your conversations sound different. People open up around you. Tension dissolves faster. Ideas flow. It's not because you've learned better communication skills, it's because your field has softened. You've stopped broadcasting defense, so others feel permission to relax in your presence. That's coherence in relationship form. Now look at creativity. Maybe you're a writer, a designer, or someone who's been afraid to share their voice. Incoherence shows up here as perfectionism, fear of judgment, constant overthinking. But when your vibration is balanced, ideas come unforced, like the universe composing through you. Flow state is simply you and the field in conversation. You listen, it speaks, you act, it responds. That's co-creation in its purest form. And then there's health, the most direct reflection of inner dialogue. When you suppress emotions, your body stores static. When you express with authenticity, that static clears. Cells begin to communicate again, systems synchronize, and vitality rises naturally. Your biology is the universe's closest translator. Every pulse, every breath, every sensation is a message being sent both ways. Let's anchor this with one more real-world moment. Scenario number 3. You're standing at the starting line of a marathon. Months of training behind you, nerves fluttering in your chest. You take one deep breath and remember, coherence first. The crowd noise fades, your heartbeat steadies, and something inside clicks into rhythm. The run stops feeling like effort. It feels like participation in a larger movement. Step by step, you're not fighting the race. You're being run by it. That's alignment in action. The more you live this way, the more the boundaries between you and everything else begin to soften. You realize the same intelligence animating galaxies is moving through your hands, through your words, through your breath. You're not influencing the field anymore. You are the field expressing itself consciously. And that recognition opens the final layer of fluency. Not communication with the universe, but communion. The moment you realize you and the universe were never speaking two different languages at all. At this point, the language of the universe stops feeling like something outside you and starts feeling like your native tongue. You realize it was never you trying to talk to it. It was consciousness listening to itself through your experience, the ocean recognizing one of its own waves. When coherence deepens, the boundary between me and everything else dissolves into quiet awe. You start to see that every challenge, delay, or detour wasn't a test of worth. It was part of the syntax. Life was never withholding your desires. It was teaching you rhythm. Every pause, every silence, every no was actually a comma. In a much larger sentence, the universe was writing through you. And that's where surrender stops being passive and becomes powerful. It's not giving up control. It's remembering you were never separate from the intelligence that orchestrates all things. True surrender is saying, I trust the timing because I am the timing. This is where quantum mechanics meets mysticism. The observer and the observed collapse into one. The law of attraction becomes less about pulling things in and more about allowing recognition. Reality no longer needs to prove itself to you because you finally understand it's been mirroring you perfectly the whole time. The old spiritual chase, to manifest, to align, to ascend, fades into something simpler. Stillness, gratitude, a quiet knowing that you are the communication itself. Every breath, every thought, every heartbeat is the universe speaking in first person. There's a paradox here. The more you dissolve the need to manifest, the faster life unfolds in your favor. Because you're not signaling lack anymore. You're vibrating as wholeness. You stop trying to get reality to love you and discover it already does. This is the deepest fluency of all, when your nervous system, emotions, and consciousness form one coherent field, and you can finally hear the silence beneath sound, the hum of existence that says you were never disconnected. From that space, you don't try to shape your future. You listen it into being. You don't visualize. You remember. You don't command. You commune. And in that communion, manifestation becomes effortless, not because you've mastered the language of the universe, but because you've remembered you are the voice it's been speaking through all along. But before this journey closes, there's one final revelation, the image that ties it all together, the moment you recognize that the mirror has always been showing your own light. Imagine standing before a vast mirror, not made of glass, but of light. Every thought you've ever had, every emotion you've ever carried, reflects back through it as form. You smile, it brightens, you contract, it clouds. This is not symbolism. This is the architecture of reality. The universe is that mirror, endlessly responsive, endlessly faithful. It doesn't judge or edit. It simply reflects what you radiate. Learning to speak its language was never about acquiring power. It was about remembering responsibility. Because once you understand that reflection, you stop begging reality to change, and you start sculpting it from the inside out. Every breath becomes a brushstroke, every belief, a color, every heartbeat, a word in the cosmic sentence only you can write. And here's the real beauty. You don't have to perfect it. The mirror isn't fragile. It doesn't shatter when you forget who you are. It waits, patiently, for the next coherent note, the next moment of remembrance. It reflects your forgetting just as lovingly as your alignment. So the language of the universe isn't spoken in words, or even in thoughts. It's spoken in being, in how you stand, how you breathe, how you treat the quiet spaces between moments. The more you live as your truest vibration, the clearer that reflection becomes. Because when you finally see that every person, every coincidence, every silence is the universe responding in your dialect, you stop searching for signs. You are the sign. So as you leave this space, try this. Speak less to the universe and listen more. Feel what it's echoing through your emotions, your timing, your body. The translation is already happening. You just have to trust the resonance. Have you ever noticed that once you stopped forcing, reality began to flow toward you like it always wanted to? Tell me your story in the comments. Your experience might be the key that helps someone else finally hear the universe answering back.